Master, please. Don't be all realistic here. Then you need not less.
You're also live on Newsfile here on Joy 99.7 FM, also on the JoyNews channel. My name is Evans Mensah. Sincere apologies. We had the technical challenge with Abdul Malik Kubaku's microphone, and we had to take that break so we can fix it. Sincere apologies. That has been fixed now, and so we could have an uninterrupted conversation. And Kuku, you were responding to the question about those who say that if you cannot raise 420,000 cedis, then you have no business leading a party and aspiring to be president.
Yes, and I'm not too sure if what I read from the CDD document was heard by listeners and viewers. I'm not too sure, so you don't mind if I
please
respond to this question by first citing what the CDD said. And as I said, there are different people with different opinions on this matter. But this is an authoritative document, so I like to go about it. It says revenue and other core resource mobilization skills are surely key credentials needed for effective governance in a democracy or any type of government. Lacking the ability and creativity needed to mobilize funds and other resources in a lawful and legitimate manner should disqualify any person or party from seeking the mandate to govern a whole country, especially a resource-scarce, quote-unquote, one such as Ghana. In brackets, it says, it is fair to ask the question, what business do you have setting yourself up as a political party to seek our mandate to govern if you are uninventive, uncreative, taxpayer handout dependent type of political party or candidate? Perhaps it is best to let political marketplace decide by itself which parties remain economically viable. It proceeded to give options in terms of sources of resource mobilization or party funding, at least the immediate primary one. And he said, funding of political parties must necessarily begin with party membership, leadership, and chief promoters. Parties must be funded in the first instance by their own membership through dues and other membership donations. It is best that this is done through regular payment of dues, perhaps on a monthly basis, and frequent grassroots fundraising events like small stakes raffles, sales from bread and kinky, or groundnut cakes made by members. This primary. I suppose that if you are an aspirant aspiring to lead a party, that's obvious that you are a member of the party. 2, if the party imposes a certain conditions which you must fulfill relative to a special resource mobilization, and you are doing it, I suppose it's captured within the context that I have painted here. So that's my view. Now, I made a point about Asidu Nketia talking about social democracy being synonymous with poverty. And I didn't like to repeat this, but if it wasn't heard, I would want to. I made a point that I, as a socialist, if you like a Marxist, though a realist in terms of my political practice, I believe that socialism is not about sharing poverty. It is about promoting the collective prosperity of the society and our people. The distortion came about because you had all sorts of characters who jumped onto the revolutionary bandwagon years ago and were given the impression that to prove that you are a socialist, you have to wear Afro Moses. I'm sure if you know what Afro Moses is. Or Ajwa Yankee. It should be a very popular dress. Or you grow Osama bin Laden type of beard. Those were just distortions. But the bloody truth is that political party financing is hugely expensive. And if you look at the NDC's option, the scope, the coverage, the scale of what they are going to hold, we are told is of 300,000 plus delegates across the 275 constituencies. Transportation, logistics, media work, advertising, all those things. Huge. Nobody should underestimate that. So you definitely need some money to run that process. Perhaps even a little left to go beyond it for some other good reasons. To that extent, if you hear the 420 and you put it in context, I say it's understandable. It might be problematic to some people, but I think it's understandable. I think it makes sense to me. And that's where the argument lies. And this is not a new debate. I was going to go to Westminster document, which I said is also in collaboration between CDD and them. And it's titled The Cost of Politics in Ghana. What I found interesting, they did a survey, a research between 2012 and 2016. And they realized that 2012 election expenditure compared to 2016 election expenditure, the expenditure rose by increased by 59%.
59%.
And then I'll go to the document itself. On page 5, executive summary. It says on average, candidates needed to raise 389,803 Ghana cedis, approximately then 85,000 US dollars, to secure the party primary nomination and compete in the parliamentary election in their constituency. If the cost of politics rises to unaffordable levels, the danger is that politics becomes the domain of the elite and wealthy, and that the motivation and incentives of the MPs move from serving the public to recovering their own investment.
Yeah.
These are hard facts. But you see, I find it interesting. Between 2012 and 2016, expenditure for running for public office increased by 59%. Now check the figure here, that on the average, candidates were raising 389,000 plus.
Okay. And these are seeking members of parliament?
Yes, the study breaks down the various costs involved in seeking public office in Ghana.
Okay.
Today, this over 250 aspirants, candidates, and sitting MPs were surveyed about their experiences in the 2012 and 2016 elections. This is the scale. The people they interrogated or interviewed. And I'm saying that if by 2016, the last election, it was 389,000 plus on average each candidate spent. What is 420?
In 2018.
You see where we are?
Yeah.
So it's an issue that has been challenging us for a long time. That's why the idea of state funding or public funding of parties came in. But that is controversial.
Very.
And this same paper here, both papers here, raise all the challenges as to the dangers involved even in that.
Yeah.
I'm told there's a country, I've forgotten immediately, there's a country where to register, when you register, you are given 20 million. That's dollars.
Yeah.
But then they realize there are some parties, they register to get the 20 million. And within 3 months, they are banned.
But time was in this country when parties got vehicles from the electoral commission. And
yes,
we know
that's
even that was abused.
From 92,
Yeah.
92
People
elections.
form parties just for to get the
Yes,
card.
you get it, then you dissolve the party.
And then dissolve the party.
No serious regulation as to tracking and monitoring so that perhaps the vehicles or the logistics could be retrieved. They were not retrievable. You get a point. So to be honest, that issue has become a very critical one. What is the way forward? Because in both documents, it is indicated that this also can breed political corruption. It's indicated. There's an honest admission that when you allow, because this right now, what I read is like restrictive to party membership. I think I can go along with that. But you see, I just noticed, Doc, when Felix mentioned the Shaman chairman, who is a businessman.
Yeah.
But you see, he's a hybrid here.
He's a member of the party.
He's a member of the party.
Yeah.
And he's a businessman. commonsensically or logically, or if you like, you can speculate that, look, but the man is doing this in anticipation of recovering his investment. How would that be recovered? Through corrupt means or through legitimate means? Don't forget, it can be legitimate means. Yeah. The business that he has can bid and win contracts in order to get back. The point is that we don't have much trust in our institutions of states that we have set up to monitor and evaluate these things. For instance, even the EC, in terms of audited accounts that the parties must send to, they sent. Some send. I have some documents here, 2000 to 2009, and then 2015 to 2012 to 2015. There are still omissions. Some parties do, some don't. But it isn't that very effective in terms of the capacity to monitor and even the sources of the funding, whether the parties will tell you the entirety of their sources. These are real difficulties. So we have a challenge. How do we go about it? I'm sure when we move further, solutions will be provided, because here in these two documents, they provided prescriptions, a wide range of prescriptions. Some may be acceptable, some may be unacceptable. But I want to be very fair on this matter. And again, it comes back to the way we play our politics. See, for instance, the state funding thing, when the MPP were in opposition together with us, we're all for state funding. Indeed, President Kufuor, in his first State of Nation address to Parliament, raised it and said we should work on it. Subsequently to that, nobody did anything, even from the incumbent side. It was now the NDC that opposed state funding, and this is Hansard from December, this is 1999, for all the debates that went on, from December 2nd to December 20th. Mr. Bagbin, Obeda Samoa, all of them were in Parliament. Virtually everything they said was...
Bagbin opposed it?
Yeah. He was there. He makes the point. He says it's not...
I was just coming to ask you your reaction to his comment.
He says we're not ready for that kind of...
well, in 2018, he says that NDC is being sold to the highest bidder because of 400,000.
Well, they may not be the same. That is, if you think state funding was inappropriate or not ready, we're not ready for it in 1999. I'm not too sure whether...
Maybe he may have changed his stance.
Yeah, but I'm not too sure that saying NDC is being sold to the highest bidder is synonymous with declining state. I mean, I want to be precise.
Some say if there's state funding, then the party will not need this much from them.
Yes, and even then, state funding, as I said, has become a controversial subject. Yeah. What mode? How much? What kind of state funding? You see, we talked of state, and sometimes we interchange it with public, even though there are people who think it's not, in terms of exactitude, it's not the same. But the idea was that over the period, you mentioned the vehicles that NIVA, I think, was from one of the Eastern Bloc countries. Yeah. Then we had also access to radio and TV for some campaign messages, you know. So those were the public funding, the limit at which people were ready to accept. Question, how much money do you give to a party? Where is that money put? So there were all sorts of proposals that private sector could be invited to donate to a specific central location, and parties then get from a central authority that has been, maybe the EC or any other body. How do you go about it? The issue was representation in Parliament. Yeah. What if there's a new party that has been formed, has no representation in Parliament? They won't qualify for that funding, at least for the first stage. So these are major issues, very articulate, look, well articulated in thousands of literature. The problem I have with this country is that we talk too much and we do very little. And be honest with you, many of the things we are seeing here have been articulated over and over. I only see a situation where the major parties, when they are in government, they are not interested, or they are less inclined to join.
Why do you think that is the case?
Because perhaps when they are in government, it's easy to mobilize money and resources. Maybe. I shouldn't say maybe, certainly.
And I'll give you the evidence.
Doc is here to help.
Just before I move on to Doc, what do you say, though, to the objections coming from the other aspirants? So we've heard from Babin, who says he's fighting it because his sale of the party is the highest bidder. We heard from Alabi's camp, who say, we had Kwashiga say that this is a deterrent to prevent others from contesting. That is a conspiracy theorist argument that it is to eliminate people from the race. and they're objecting. In fact, yesterday we heard they were going to meet and submit a petition to the founder. You know, what's your reaction to all that?
Wrong definition.
The founder, I'm sure the founder will have to listen to himself and ask questions. How was the NDC's formation funded? Particularly its 96 campaign, how was it funded? I'm sure you might have heard about Abacha's $5 million.
Yeah.
It was related to 1996 elections. It even violated the political parties law. But in founding the NDC, forming it at its inception, how was it funded? It was head. Everybody knows what state resources. It's in Obeda Samuel's book here, State Logistics and Resources, the Political History of Ghana, 1950 to 2013, the experience of a nonconformist. Go read it. And you have evidence there of state apparatus geared towards the formation of the NDC as a political party. But it's history. That's not the focus now. So petitioning the founder, I know the founder predictably would dig in to hit one or two people here. But you see, the other aspirants, I'm not going to say this too much. I think that, look, the party must have a certain line of self-financing. We all know they do all sorts of things, all of them, including even the smaller ones. Okay, they get money from foreign sources. You will never be able to tell. Only few has come out, few dropped, so those were challenged. If you go to the MNJ court case in the UK, it was there. These are court records, how the NDC used the roads and highways to set up a fund for financing. If you go to the Skansem court case in Norway, it's there, black and white. Okay? And even in local terms here, there was 116 pounds that was given to the Males Campaign 2000 by Skansem officials here. It's also documented. I brought the letters here. MPP cannot claim that they are not guilty of the same conduct.
The hospital.
Yeah, the hospital thing is classic. But that one, they were using it for election prospects and things. But the MPP, obviously. CPP and the rest, we are small at this stage, but I'm sure they take money from all sorts of sources. In fact, this document talks about the need even to review the political parties law relative to foreign funding. You know, there's no allowance for foreign entities to finance, but it talks about the need to look at that. Maybe if the monies could be sent into a central fund. After all, we have groups like Danida and the rest giving money to, is it IEA for under the PPP something? So there are things that we can do, and then diaspora and the external branches, we can find ways of them also feeding in. Some do right now. There's a limit. You know? So there are many avenues and options. As a nation, we need to discuss these things properly, consolidate them. I'm sure there's even a draft bill of a sort. I think it's escaped me.
I think IEA put something together.
You see, they need to work on it, walk the talk. Otherwise, I'm being honest with you,
we'll come back to
this situation of NDC having put these figures there, members and leaders contribute, you may find it problematic, but I say it's understandable.
Dr. Drosai, the question about state funding of political parties, though, if you listen to what Kuku just said, and the research that shows that the funding has jumped by 59% from one election to the next, some may argue, if you had to go the way of state funded political parties, how can the state fund political parties with this sort of cost jump from one party, one election to the next? It's just not sustainable, even if you want to do it.
Well, you see, it should be a hybrid, and that is where the regulation would come in, because you go to certain jurisdictions and they have what they call campaign finance and capping. So then you have a range within which you have to spend.
So parties will be told you can't spend
beyond this amount, or
even the UK, the campaigning period is very restricted.
That's right.
So like 100 days before the elections, you cannot spend money and do.
So if we have those figures there for the parliamentary primaries and all of that, I think it will help. But you see, the important point here that we need to address is how political parties fund their party activities when in government and when they are outside government. It is very important. We need to interrogate that. The Constitution Review Commission, in its report, they identified it as a serious matter. When you look at paragraph 355 of the report, and let me read it. The Commission finds that altogether in Africa, there is a sharp distinction between sources of income of governing parties and those of opposition parties. Ruling parties by far outpace and outspend opposition parties. A ratio of 15:1 is given to the case of Ghana.
Serious.
While that of 30:1 has been stated for Senegal. So it tells us that we should start regulating that environment. And in regulating that environment, it means we have to evolve a hybrid or a process of funding political parties in this country. Else, we'll come back to this table after 2020 to discuss this matter again. This is not to say that because it is an unregulated environment, they come up with any figures that will prevent others, well-meaning people, from leading their political parties. My position is that a party knows its brand, a party knows the kind of candidate they want, but the party's candidate becomes the president of the Republic of Ghana. So the Republic of Ghana must be interested in how a party gets the candidate. And this calls for regulating funding, regulating how they get money to organize their primaries, and even the campaign process.
Let me come back to Felix. Let me come to the politicians to wrap up. Felix, I know you made a lot of notes.
There's a lot of things that make it. See, first of all, my brother here is being mischievous and rather duplicitous. Look, the most scandalous and glaring cases of corruption in relation to political party finances have emerged from the MPP. Why? We were in this country when their former national chairman, Haruna Issoufou, was clearly heard on tape saying
a kickback.
That kickbacks had been taken.
He didn't use the word kickback.
Well, but of course, if you say that monies have been taken from contractors. Oh, yeah, I know. Even he's done that about 3 times. When you say that monies have been collected from contractors and taken to the castle, and that he personally used to go there and the money will be stashed in his boot for party activity, and that there has been a sudden decline in that activity. What was he referring to? Indeed, for making...
He was talking of donation.
Yes, but the point I'm making is that from contractors. Now, because of that, I'm sure you are aware that he was unable to set foot at the party congress in 2005, which he was supposed to superintend. Again, recently, Nano Bibuahi, the deputy general secretary of the MPP, was heard on tape saying that for their congress held in Cape Coast last year, the Flagstaff House donated 5 million Ghana cedis. I'm sure you heard that. Look, he speaks about the prospect of the Ashaman chairman donating 200,000 because of some interest that he may be pursuing. You recall when the Boss case arose, the moving Pina scandal. Kennedy Japan on national television said that the man gave him some money to resolve a problem in Ashanti region in relation to the MPP campaign. And therefore, he was confident that he deserved to be put in that position to recoup his investment. This is a glaring case of a leading figure of the MPP saying that somebody is being kept at a particular position to recoup money because he made a donation. Again, for a party like the MPP, that barely 3 years ago had to be chased by the Prudential Bank for a debt of 2 million Ghana cedis, to suddenly come into power and be in a position to raise 11 million Ghana cedis to purchase 275 buses. And mind you, that figure is bigger than what we are spending on this huge primaries that we are holding. You recall also that there's an IEA report that said that in the 2008 elections, the MPP outspent its opponents by a factor of 30-1. In fact, the most extravagant political campaign that has been held in this country's history is that campaign. You recall they held fashion shows, they held Believe in Ghana concerts, they had all manner of musicians on board. Why? There was a time that banners were attached to aircrafts that flew across various cities in this country. It was done by the MPP. Recently, at the Akufo-Addo conference, did the conservative rep, John Hayward, not publicly blast them for displaying that level of opulence, having come out of opposition a few months ago and having complained in the past of resource constraints? He admitted that Nana Akufo-Addo had to come in to bail out the party to the tune of 600,000 Ghana cedis. A party that could not raise that amount, 600,000 Ghana cedis, and needed to rely on one person, suddenly was able to raise 11 million Ghana cedis to import buses. So I think that he has to be realistic. Again, this falsehood that he repeated about the hospitals. Look, the NDC as a party has never taken money out of contract sums to carry out research. NMS, which is the contractor that did the hospitals, as part of its activity, chose to do research to determine the sort of arrangements that they need to put in place to build the hospitals. So it was research related to the project. It was not political party research, and that point must be clarified. Mr. Rojonunu has publicly stated that that is the position. So he cannot misquote the man and link a previous interview that he did relating to something that he wanted to draw the attention of the party to this particular matter. But
on that point, the researchers in the documents that we have also made it clear in the scope
that there was political research.
Exactly.
Fine, but the point is that
they did that
yes,
also.
But that will be that will
for
not
the
be
NDC.
unusual. No, they didn't do it for the NDC.
They did it for the NDC.
No.
No.
I'm saying
in the scope.
I'm saying that they did political party research.
Yes.
Out of that research emerged issues bordering on people's perceptions
in their own scope.
Let me make the point.
No, I'm just.
But I'm saying that the
NDC,
NDC did not commission what do you call it? That company, the Camille Alabi-Campaign, the apparent company, to do research. The NDC as a party has not done that. It was a government project. The contractor itself noted the need for research.
I mean, might I remind you that your party's head of research is on record to have said that the party was briefed, people, including himself, was briefed that the party was.
No, listen, we have carried out multiple research. Since we've been in opposition, at least I'm aware of 2 or 3 researches that we have carried out. We've done research all the time.
Yeah, but he said he was aware of the political angle of this.
No.
And that he and others were briefed.
You granted him an interview.
Yes.
He made comments that you isolated in order to give vent to the position that you had put out. I'm telling you as a matter of fact.
No, not at all.
Not at all. No, I'm telling you as a matter of fact that the NDC as a party, we are not even in a position to go and commandeer a contractor undertaking a project for government to do research on our behalf. We have capacity to do research. Even in opposition, we've done research to determine our chances and what we need to do going forward. So I don't think that that argument that he makes sits well with the context, within the context of the discussion that we are having. Again, this mischievous attempt to create the impression that there is exclusion in what is being done is most untenable. Look, it is the need for inclusion that has compelled us to have this arrangement of about 300,000 people. We could have simply decided that, okay, times are hard, so let's have just constituency chairmen and their secretaries come to Accra.
But that's not what he meant by exclusion.
No.
Exclusion
but you're telling me that
the leaders, those who will lead the party in 2020.
Look, you're telling me that Mr. Bagby, with all his depth of experience and the level of exposure that he has, is not in a position to raise 400,000. The man has already begun efforts to raise the money. You are telling me that Mr. Joshua Alabi, or Professor Joshua Alabi, with all his stature and standing in society, is not in a position to take steps to find 400,000 Ghana cedis. In fact, as we speak, the man has launched a short code appealing to his supporters to help. Even Eli Plim Alomava has taken that step. I have told you about the gamut of activities that the GM campaign is undertaking to realize those funds in order to pay. So candidates are not being asked to go into their bank accounts and bring 400,000. Again, mind you that leading up to this process have been a series of elections. We've had branch elections. That was funded with 1 cedi contributions from branch members. We moved on to constituency elections. That was funded by the party. We moved on to regional elections, funded by the party. We moved on to national elections, and I told you about the 5-member finance committee that has been mobilizing resources, and they've contributed far more than this 400,000. This time, the party decides that a different mechanism and approach ought to be used within the constraints of time and resources to realize this amount. It is perfectly legitimate, it is lawful, it does not violate any tenet of democratic practice, and it certainly does not run at variance with our ideology as a social democratic party. So let Pius and his MPP stop the mischief. They are noted, at least from the statements of their own officials, for using state resources to finance their campaigns. And they are noted for extreme opulence when it comes to political party financing. There are realities that he ought to confront. Look, Nana Addo won this 2016 election, not from his pocket. Certainly, he raised funds. So if Nana Addo is in a position to raise funds, what stops NDC aspirants from also raising funds? How do you expect that somebody who wants to lead a party into a national election, and look, let me be frank with you, he may not admit it, but to become president of this country, you need not less than $50 million to wage a campaign.
50 million.
$50 million to wage a campaign. In other countries, it runs into hundreds of millions of dollars. You are telling me that Nana Addo realized that amount from his own pocket, and that he did not have help from sources, both internal and external. Let us stop being hypocritical about this matter.
Okay, but so the fundamental point is both parties do say, but I guess from this side of the table.
How do they get their money back?
On this side of the table, it's about how do you first regulate that process, but also to ensure that, of course, the legal thing has been done, democracy is being served properly. I think that's a bigger question. because you are in government, you're a deputy information minister, you shouldn't also be dealing only with the politics of it,
That's
but also
right.
about the bigger picture
That's
of how
right.
to resolve this going forward.
That's
Because
right.
as Kuku had said,
That's right.
when the parties move from opposition to government, they then sort of abandon
That's right.
the call to find
So I
politics.
will deal with that one, then I will come to
we need to do this in 5 minutes. Let's move on to
Mr.
power outages.
Baku's question of how do we move forward. But I don't think that it is true that both parties do the same. There's a world of difference between the NPP and the NDC. And if you listen closely to Mr. Kwaku Baku, you'll find out that the question we should be asking is that, so what business does the NDC, the corporate NDC, the political party NDC, have putting itself up as a political party that is sponsoring candidates? Because from the literature that Mr. Baku read, it is isolated activities that the corporate party itself should be engaging in to mobilize funds. The point I'm making is that the NDC is either out of laziness, out of a lack of proper creativity, or maybe out of a desire to exclude others. The NDC is shifting its responsibility, the corporate responsibility of the NDC, to mobilize funds to individuals. And I'm saying that they are motivated by the desire to exclude certain individuals. That's the point I'm making. But I see that in this race. And that's the difference between the MPP and the NDC. In the MPP, we try to communally raise the monies. When we were you heard about the adopter polling station, you heard about all the things that the NPP does to rake in revenue communally, collectively, as a political party. And that is why I said to you that when the issue of filing fees arose for the NPP, we set a modest 85,000. But we allowed people to bring in money. We allowed people to bring in resources at their disposal. I know people within the NPP who volunteered. Nanado gave some amount of money, yes, but I also know individuals who volunteered even at the local level. That is how political parties can be relevant in our democratic space. But in this case, what you are trying to do is to monetize the slot of the flag bearer of the NDC. You are monetizing it. And you see, there's a difference between voluntary contributions, mobilizing funds, sending text messages. There's a difference between that and the filing fee, because the filing fee is even time bound. If by a certain time X, you are not able to bring a certain amount Y, you are disqualified from leading the NDC. That is different from mass mobilization and crowdfunding. It's different. It's different. Now ask, if the NDC is saying that individual members of the NDC have the capacity to raise funds, but the corporate NDC doesn't have the capacity to raise funds, in the last elections, and Uncle Kweku, you talk about the scale of the NDC election, it is large, but it is very similar to the NPP. The NDC has 9 officers at the polling station level, the branch level. We have 5. All the 9 vote for their flag bearer. In the NPP, all the 5 vote for the flag bearer. We also vote across all the 275 constituencies. In fact, in our case, branches, external branches even vote.
There are 9. You multiply it with the number of branches.
Yes, it's the same. Okay. It's also 5 times the 29.
But you chose to peg yours at 85, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So the scale is very similar to the NDC scale. I just wanted to create the impression that the NDC scale is not something that we haven't seen before. In fact, it is a reduction. In the last election, not only 999 people per polling station voted, but all card-bearing members. So we had millions of people voting. At that time, they only could raise, or they needed only 50,000 filing fees, when the numbers were in their millions. Now that the numbers have rather come down to 300,000, now the filing fee has rather moved from 50,000 to 420,000. It is because the NDC is ceding its role of mobilizing and imposing it on individuals with a desire to exclude some people from the race. But moving forward, I think that the NDC should just learn from the NPP. That, you see, the political party should be about the ordinary members of the party. That the NDC should ensure a strict compliance with their dues-paying regulations. In our party, we take time, we invest some energy in educating our people that the NPP is about them and people should pay dues. Beyond the dues, we even actually have graduated. There's an entry point that everybody can pay, and then there's patrons. Patrons are even again graduated. People can pay more, and so on and so forth. If you do these things, then you can now open the democratic space, but so that anybody...
Wrap it up for me on this. So as a government, what is it that you commit to do about political party financing?
Well, I think that, but Evans, just one quick one. I know, just one quick one. You know, the 8 million that the NDC wants to raise for this election. Let me ask the hypothetical question. What if one person only files, or two? The 420,000, it will be the same scale. It will be the same elections. If only two people file, it will be the same elections that will be conducted.
They have not said that we are dependent entirely on this.
But the party hasn't said that they only rely on
that is the point, that the original responsibility of the fundraising is for the corporate party.
Yes, but have we debated
that should not be shifted.
No, how does a corporate individual... A quick question to you. How does the party raise the fund? Does it not use its individuals and members and other well-wishers? So what is this about corporate?
Not through this vehicle. Not through this vehicle of an exclusionist.
What is the commitment of this government to move this conversation about political party financing and the legislation possibly?
Well, I haven't, honestly speaking, as Deputy Minister, I haven't had any briefing from either cabinet or from His Excellency the President on this particular matter that I am aware of.
No problem.
So I may only speak my mind that my view, my understanding of how things work in the NPP is that we believe that the democratic space should be opened. And if it means that the state should assist to a certain extent, that individuals can organize themselves into political parties and elect themselves, the state must be able to do that. That is more desirable than asking only the rich in society, like the NDC is doing, to put themselves up for election.
To another big topic that we follow for you this week, which is the power outages. On Monday, the Energy Minister, John Peter Amewu, surrounded by his host of deputies, held a press conference. And it's been a while since we saw government holding press conference on Doomsor, or the potential of Doomsor coming into our lexicon again. But that happened.
We're moving.
Yes.
But I thought one or two clarifications.
You wanted to clarify something?
One or two.
Okay, I've done that. 2 minutes.
Sure. Yes. Felix mentioned NPP's indebtedness to Prudential Bank.
Yes. He mentioned 2 million.
Yeah, I was wondering. No, it was 1.5 million Ghana cedis. Okay. The demand notice, at least, that's what the bank was demanding. But I was wondering what the relevance was.
He was saying that for a party that struggled in opposition,
it showed a struggle.
An old Prudential Bank, now in government, could raise 11 million.
Wait. That's a party in opposition that was capable of attracting that level of loan.
Yes.
And indeed, if you go for the details, the party it was actually contracted by Ken Ofurata.
Yes. On behalf of the party, of course.
And yes, on behalf of the party, but the collateral was private.
Yeah.
Yes.
It wasn't the party that stood in for the collateral. So really, I don't see where we put it. It only shows an individual that had the capability
to mobilize funds.
But the party was relying on him because they did not have...
It's the same point.
Exactly.
That's why I was trying to
we are
question
splitting
my brother
that
what I read from the CDD thing is party membership, party leaders, and chief promoters.
Everybody has a responsibility.
In this case, it's within that context. And that's why I brought in that Sharma Manstein. He's a hybrid. He's not just a businessman. He's also a party person. Look, if we went back to our history, there are many such examples. Even UGCC, and it's stated here, Power Grant. Here was an individual, business who was financing. It's a very tricky thing. We need to take our time. I've just realized that, look, state funding, this is October 17, 2001 answered. Kusi Kedem, he made a statement. It was titled Zero Tolerance for Corruption and State Funding of Registered Political Parties. Reading it, I realized there was even an issue that was brought up at the Consultative Assembly.
That form that mentally ended up couching the constitution.
Seriously debated and then deferred. And he makes the point that they have been talking about it. You can listen to Bagbin. Bagbin, this one is 2nd December 1999. Okay, Bagbin's view was that we simply believe it is premature to do that now. Okay. Then he goes forward to say that is why we advised against it. In any case, we are not willing through our political life to put it forward.
1999, they were still in government.
Yes, they were in government. Then Jack came in, State of Nation address, committed himself to it. By 2004, the MPP was no longer interested.
Fizzled out, yeah.
That's what has been happening.
Which is really what you confirmed again.
And I want Felix not to forget that when the MPP2 were fixing their filing fees and things, some of them complained.
Oh, of course.
True.
Indeed, when the Electoral Commission, the last election, fixed the 50,000. Yes.
Yeah, they complained.
Political parties, some went to court. I think the political party went to court.
Yes.
Yes.
To try and deal with it. Okay, cool.
So it's recycled.
Thank you very much. Yes.
We are recycling this
recycling,
thing.
yes. And as far as confirmed, it hasn't even come up anywhere in the circles of government.
No, I haven't heard.
You haven't heard. Okay,
We
so
should
you haven't
walk the
heard.
talk.
Okay.
We'll come back here next
Definitely.
and discuss the same thing.
I am even skeptical that government finance or state finance or political parties will even end this spectacle because the amount of money
it will end it totally.
The amount of money you require. I don't think
that is why I asked the question
given
about
the competing demands.
if the amounts that Kweku mentioned from the document is what it takes to fund a parliamentary aspirant's campaign.
Yes.
Can imagine what the state can do for that guy, even if you give him 20,000, he won't do anything for him.
You still need to go out there.
Still listening to Newsfile. It's on Joy 99.7 FM, also on the Joy News channel, Multi TV. Let's.